Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce. And Joyce, what a great week. We have a new contender in the limited series category.
New but old.
I'm so psyched about this. This felt like the right choice for Mrs. Davis to go from drama series to limited series.
It also made more sense in comedy than drama.
It's definitely funnier than a lot of comedies, but it's also not as funny as Succession, which is the drama favorite. So I could see them running it in drama, but it definitely also completely ends in a satisfying way.
It's totally like Beef, and it pulled a Beef. Yes. Like both of their seasons. And it wraps up the season nicely, and it could continue each of them if they wanted to, or it could just stop. And it's satisfying.
I felt like Beef had more of a. I could have seen Beef the way it ends. There's enough little strings that they could like put together a second season. Even though I thought we talked about this, great final episode. Like Beef just ends perfectly. So it's like you don't need it.
Final image,
right?
And needle drop.
Great final image, great needle drop. Totally gets the point of the show, and it like kind of like solves the show basically. Mrs. Davis, which is going to be ending, I guess next week. I think is the finale. We're recording this on Wednesday the 10th. I think the finale is the 18th. I would say has less loose ends to tie up than Beef did.
Yes. But it does, you could follow characters again if you wanted to, for sure. Yes. It would just have to be a completely different premise, I guess, for season 2.
And also it's just like, and I think as people who watch it will see, like it also satisfyingly answers the premise of the show, I think.
Yes. Yeah. And then, it could also, if it continues, it could just be an anthology.
Right.
So, like Beef too.
But the biggest issue I had with it in drama was that while I love the show, and we talked about this literally last week, I had to remove Betty Gilpin from my predictions because I was just like, I don't know how she fits for a new show that I don't think people will really watch, a new drama series that I think people would be less likely to put on because they're like, am I going to start a new show? But now that it's a limited series, I feel like people will actually be like, yeah, I'd watch that because I know it's a finite thing.
Yeah, ironically, I had her in drama, but I did not add her into limited.
I had her not in drama, and I shot her right to the top of limited almost.
I also understand them even like just going to limited just because it's just a weaker field. It's not very strong this season. No. So more opportunities, better, higher chances for them to break in. But I also don't know if it will, just because it is coming so late, and I don't even know if them knowing it's in limited would spur any more people to watch it. It's upsetting to me personally just that there's not a lot of conversation about the show since it premiered on April 20th.
I felt like,
but it's on Peacock.
Right. The Peacock shows have had a tough time breaking through. I feel the same way about Bupkis, which I'm surprised has not generated like more buzz because it's really funny. And also there's like kind of like hilarious, I think, stuff that people would have talked about, but it just feels like it got lost. And similar with Mrs. Davis, I will say, like, before everybody kind of like shut down on doing stuff, they were doing a lot of Mrs. Davis press. I felt like I saw a lot of it, at least in the first.
Yeah, like they were promoting it. It came out April 20th. The strike was May 2nd.
Right.
So, but just even like premiere weekend, like I think I saw more conversation about The Diplomat, which premiered the same day.
Certainly
is on Netflix.
Way more popular. I know regular people who have like watched The Diplomat. I don't know a single real person who has watched Mrs. Davis.
Yeah, and then we talked about this last week too. It might be better as like a day and date drop when you have the full season, because it's hard to say like how, like what's the right fit for the show.
Yeah, I think they kind of split. We talked about this, but we talked about this. I feel like this episode is going to be Joyce. We talked about this, but I think they did the best they could splitting it up, because like the first 4 feel like that 4th episode ends on a way that like reframes the whole first half of the season. And so putting them all out at once, I think made sense. but I do think you could have just put the whole thing out at once, or maybe like over 2 weeks or whatever you want to do. But I put it in for series and for Betty Gilpin and actress because I was like, limited series, not the strongest field, Joyce, as it turns out.
No, there's just a lot of options here, and they're all just kind of on the same level, which is like competently made, and some may have better reviews and reception, viewer reception than others, but like nothing really truly huge. Like I guess like Beef probably has the best combo of everything. But it's kind of been halted buzz-wise just because of the David Cho controversy, but I don't think that's really going to impact it that much.
That feels like it was 300 years ago that people were
It
worried
was,
about
and
that.
no one remembers it now because they have bigger things to worry about.
The first 3 on our odds are Monster, Blackbird, and Beef. I have that reversed. I have Beef, Blackbird, and Monster in my list, but I think those 3, if I was going to say anything is safe here, which I don't really believe anything maybe is, those feel safe because I'm like, Monster and Blackbird have the advantage of having been on for a while, were moderately successful over the winter. People maybe definitely watched Monster because it was such a big hit on Netflix. And I think Blackbird has slowly garnered a good reputation. And I do think it's like a really solid show. And then I have Beef in there because, like you said, I think it's like the best mix of a lot of people watched it. A lot of people are still talking about it, if not as much. And it also is a critical favorite. And so like, it just feels like those 3 are set. And then everything else I have here is just a total a lunacy. I feel like I have Small Light still, Nat Geo's fave. I have Daisy Jones, my fave, and now Mrs. Davis in lieu of Fleischman is in Trouble, which I loved, but I have not thought or seen one single thing about it since January.
I still have Fleischman. I do not have Blackbird.
Wow, you don't even have Blackbird.
So no, I haven't had Blackbird for a while.
I'm surprised though, because I think it could get like multiple acting nominations, and again, people liked it. It was good.
Yeah, I don't. That's all of that. Everything you said is true, but it did not do that well in the winter. It's basically just being carried by its 2 leads,
right?
The 2 actors, and I think they'll get in, and Paul Walter Hauser will probably win. But it just feels like it's a solid show that no one hates, like everyone, and it's well made, but there's just not a lot of passion for it. And sometimes you just have shows like that where there's nothing wrong with it. It's great, but like no one is, enraptured with it.
Sure.
And I feel like if it were to get snubbed, I don't think there's gonna be a whole lot of outrage. It's not gonna be like, holy shit, like how did they not nominate it? Like fuck them. Like how did Blackbird not made it? It's not gonna be like the headline of the day. It would just be like, oh man, I wish that got in, and then you just move on.
Right. Or
I think
I
it's
didn't
kind
even
of like
realize
that. And then it's like on Apple, and we've talked about it before. It's like how many people actually are watching this stuff?
Well,
on Apple. It's like I think it has like, I think it is watched, and it came out in July, and it does have fans, but I don't know if it inspires that much passion. And I think I would probably include it if it were still an unlimited ballot.
I guess the only counter I would say to like who's watching it, I would argue like none of the other shows that you probably would throw out or people are watching or even thinking about. I don't know. I was just like, Fleischman is in Trouble obviously was streamed on Hulu, but I was like not the biggest success. And George and Tammy is on Showtime, which I feel like is not much.
I mean, I don't have George and Tammy, so
Love and Death, I guess.
You're not
maybe
talking to the right person.
right? I mean, Obi-Wan would be. You still have Obi-Wan in there?
I do have Obi-Wan.
Wow.
Obi-Wan was watched.
Yeah, but not liked, it seemed.
I don't think that matters. And I think it's really just the Star Wars fans that hate it, and like they're the loudest.
Sure.
But it's not like it unlike Love and Death, it did not get a 10 on Metacritic anywhere. Like its ratings are like fine. Is it, in the 90s? Absolutely not. But it's completely fine. And I think the visibility does matter. It's like Monster, like that's watched.
Right.
Fleischman I kept because I feel like that, even though I agree it's not talked about, I think there's something about it that could appeal to people in the industry.
Yeah.
So, but I would not be surprised if it just gets like, acting, writing, directing, and this a series.
Right.
like made. And then I also have Daisy. It's like, it wasn't like the biggest hit, but I think it was seen by the public. And I don't even know, like, I don't think the TV Academy is the target demo for that show at all, but I don't know, like maybe they'll just like check out the music or something.
I
I don't
think
know.
boomers might like it though, like if they watched it.
Like maybe, I mean, like it's not Fleetwood Mac, but it's Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah. So I think if you're like an
I
old
think
boomer.
but I think it's like too long. It's 10 episodes. So I don't know like how many of them would stay through the whole thing, but I don't know if that even matters.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's gonna be 5, so I hope it's 5, so I don't have to think about 6.
Well, my 6 is Mrs. Davis, but I don't think it'll get in either. I mean, but I think it has a better shot getting in now than it did, obviously, as a drama series.
Yeah, I think it might be too late, honestly. I think if it had the Poker Face premiere spot, I would put it in. Just it would have that time to build up viewership that might not come naturally to Peacock, and like it already has the reviews. But I don't know. Well, the other thing is like now that, they are on strike, the Writers Guild, and like how many of them are concerned about checking out new shows and shows they haven't watched yet?
Probably not many, but I also don't know how they got not a lot else to do, so maybe they will eventually, right? Like I don't know.
I don't know.
They're not writing, right? You can't be writing.
They're not writing,
so,
but a lot of them
not
are
also not protesting the whole time. It's not like 24 hours a day protest.
They do have the weekends. That's true, but
and evenings, right? Like people are trading out. They have time to watch things.
They do, but then I'm like, what are they watching? It could be that. I don't know.
Who knows? I don't know.
I mean, yeah. So I kept Love and Death in my Phantom 6 slot.
Wow.
Because I think like that is being watched. And again, it's not as bad as any of the reviews would have you think it is.
Do you have White House Plumbers in there?
No, I don't.
Neither do I. White House Plumbers pretty high in our odds still, but I don't think a lot of people have probably updated. So
no, and again, that one is also a totally adequate show. I think like it's tonally it might turn some people off or like not like to its tones. But I think it's another one that might be too late and maybe it could just get like acting.
I gotta say, I don't even know if we'll get the acting now. I don't even know. Like, I guess I was just saying, like, who knows what people are watching if they have time. I mean, I guess they could also catch up on White House Plumbers. But you're right. I feel like the buzz, that show felt particularly like hamstrung a little by the strike, only because like it came out, I think, the day of the strike, right? Like, didn't it premiere on?
Yeah, May 1st.
So like a lot of
the strike started May 2nd, like midnight.
Okay. So a lot of like the press, I feel like there's not been as much. They know they had like a premiere, and I've seen like some interviews with like the cast, but like not as much maybe noise around it as there would have been otherwise.
I don't know. I mean, they were doing the press before that, obviously, in April. So, but yeah, it's just like HBO's Monday night stuff has just been kind of quiet in general, and like Perry Mason had the slot before it, and just not a lot of chatter about that either, even though it was a good season. That just very quietly finished last month, and like didn't anyone even notice?
I saw one Matthew Reese did like one interview about it. I saw that was like good.
Yeah, it's a great finale, and it possibilities for season 3, which I don't know if that's going to happen, but
I feel like a lot of these shows that are on the bubble will not continue, but I guess we'll see. Who knows?
I mean, it took them 3 years to do season
Another
2
one.
of Perry Mason, but also because of COVID. But
So
I don't trust David Zaslav too.
No, I don't think
round.
so. I get the sense no. For limited series actress choice, then I put Betty Gilpin in. You did not.
No, I made no changes.
So what are your 6 then?
Ali Wong, Elizabeth Olsen, Jessica Chastain, Emily Blunt, Dominique Fishback, and Rachel Weisz.
So I have 4 of those 6 then. I have Rachel Weisz in first, Betty Gilpin, Ali Wong, Jessica Chastain, Elizabeth Olsen, and Riley Keough. Emily Blunt similarly is a show that I'm like, I could see her getting in, but another show that I feel like not a lot of people are still talking about. That said, like maybe that will help because it came out earlier and there's like more of a, oh, we're just gonna, she'll just get in, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know about any of the Amazon ladies, honestly, but I just kept them in there. So
I gotta say, if it's my not to toot my own horn, but if it's my list, I'm like, this is a pretty great list. I'm excited about this.
like none of like all of the contenders here, like they're all great in their show and they would be great nominees. It's just like you don't know what the permutation will be.
Joyce, so we have
there's not like again, it's like really just Beef that is the strongest show, and obviously Jess has SAG,
right,
but her show is weak.
Yes.
And she got snubbed last year when everyone thought she would just follow up her Oscar win with an Emmy nomination, if not a win, too. Scenes from a Marriage.
An early email here, Joyce, from Avery, who emailed us at slugfest@goldderby.com about this very subject. Avery writes, right now for outstanding lead actress in a limited series, the frontrunners appear to be Ali Wong and Jessica Chastain, like we were just saying. Who do you think has the best shot of winning and who could potentially spoil the race and get ahead of those two?
I have Ali.
I have Rachel Weisz, so I would say that would be my spoiler. I think that I know the show is difficult, but I think everybody who's watched it and every review is like, this is a transformative, like incredible performance. But again, will enough people actually watch it to get her to win? I think if she's nominated, I think she actually would win because I think like that would kind of, once she's nominated, would kind of like you said, like tighten this field up so people know what they have to watch, and then maybe people would kind of push her over the top. But who knows? But I think Rachel Weisz would be a good one. I've had her in first since the show, since I saw the reviews of the show, basically, because I was like, oh, people really love it. They love her. They don't love the show as much, but they love her.
Yeah, she feels like one of those potential winners that you would just lock in from like 2005. Like if we were doing this in 2005, it's like, yep, she's doing this remake, gender swap remake, playing twins, just book it, right? But I think she'll get the nomination. I think her issue might be that there will be stronger shows in the mix, like Beef. Because when like Mark Ruffalo won for playing twins 3 years ago on I Know This Much Is True, which was a total no one care. He wasn't up against strong shows really, or like individually strong performers. Like Jeremy Irons was from Watchmen, but like no one was like being like like, oh my god, he's the MVP of that show. So I think that's kind of like how also he won that year. But yeah, Rachel, like she would have Ali in Beef, which I think will probably end up being the strongest show here. And obviously Jess has SAG. So Jess, I can see her just being the lone nominee.
Yeah, same. I don't have Michael Shannon in, so
I don't have him in either. Yeah, I could see Rachel spoiling. I could see Lizzie doing it too, Lizzie Olsen. Just I think what is good for both of them is that they are very much the focus of their shows, whereas Ali and Jess are in two-handers.
Right.
So and Emily Blunt too is a two-hander. So and Dominique Fishback, I think the nomination might be the reward there.
I'd love to see it, but I'm like, I don't know. Like you said, like it's tough to figure out where the Amazon has like 4 legitimate actresses who could get nominated here. And it's hard to figure out which one of those 4 or many of those 4 will get in. But I'm going with Riley Keough because of the singing. I mean, shrug. I don't know. She's a good singer.
Okay.
That helps. And she's great on it. I mean, it's an incredible performance. I think she's so good. And it's definitely a likable show, so that helps too. It's like an easy watch.
Didn't you have Belle Powley?
I did. I took her out for Mrs. Davis.
So you had her for like 3 days.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know Betty Gilpin was going to come in. I would have kept her in. I think she's a legitimate spoiler, but again, like new show, who knows? I don't know. But
it probably does it have better reviews than Beef? Probably. I don't know.
It definitely got good reviews, but it's not on Netflix.
It's coming. It's like airing right now.
Yeah, so.
It's next 2 episodes this week, right? When does it come out? It comes out on Mondays, right? Yeah. So 3 and 4 were this week. So it ends next week. Yeah, it's another like one that's another one where I feel like if it came out earlier, I would probably already have Leah Schreiber in supporting.
Right. It's just it's so tough to figure out. Again, like the hardest part of this is usually like who's actually watching this, right? And like especially with these networks.
Yeah, like you don't know what they're prioritizing, especially these late premieres
on networks that are not. I mean, it's on Disney Plus, so that helps. But I'm like, people aren't. I don't know. Like when you're opening Disney Plus, are you expecting to see a small light? Or are you expecting to see like,
you're probably like trying to pull up Bluey for your kids or something.
I gotta say, when I opened it the other day and I saw Small Light standing there in my face on the banner, I was like, actually, we're gonna watch Spidey Friends, but thanks for the recommendation. Sorry. So yeah, I don't know what people are watching or how they're doing it, but I think those are legitimate. That is like, no offense to the guys. Field.
It's just like it's not very obvious what the lineup would be.
It is, no offense to the guys, but I think it's like way better than the guys.
It's way stronger than the guys.
And
but like both of them are still unsettled.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, I think you could go like 10, 11 deep here and come up, or 12 even, and come up with like different permutations for this best actress race and be.
Well, you dropped your girl Sydney Sweeney.
I had to drop Sydney Sweeney, who I loved. Amber Midthunder, I think people really like in Prey. She was great, but I don't think she'll get nominated. Catherine Hahn for Tiny Beautiful Things. Dominic Fishback, like we're saying. I mean, like it's like a really good category. And it's way not as, the guys is not as deep, let's say.
Remember when you had Jennifer Garner?
I mean, I think she'd be deserving, but that's another show that I think no one is talking about and maybe would have benefited from a simultaneous release, as we said previously.
Yeah, and also, as I've said previously, I think it would have been bigger had it been on like HBO.
As I said previously, the podcast. I'll tell you, my parents are watching that show now, and my mom is just so frustrated that she has to do 1 episode a week. And she was like, she's like, I cannot believe this. And she read the book and she's like, I know what's going to happen. And I cannot believe I have to keep waiting every week. I was like, well, we watched it in like 2 days and it was really good.
It's like 37 minutes an episode. It's
great. She's like so annoyed and it's every week.
What episode is this week? So isn't the finale next week?
I think the finale's next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the penultimate. Okay. Yeah. So they're like at the bar, basically.
I think so. And then for drama actor Joyce, like we said, I don't even know what to do here. Like, but I have Stephen Yeun, Evan Peters, Taron Egerton, Daniel Radcliffe. I put back in Woody Harrelson and Steve Carell.
I made no changes, so I have Steve, Evan, Taron, and Steve Carell, and Justin and Woody. So
you kept Justin and Woody.
Yeah, I can see half these people not making it, and they probably won't make it. So.
Woody, I think this week was saying how he was just like his co-stars always get the flashier roles. He was comparing him to like Matthew McConaughey in True Detective to Justin Theroux in White House Plumbers. I thought that was funny. So I'm like, maybe Justin will get in, but I put Steve Carell in because another shrug. I don't know. Sure. And Radcliffe I put in because I think Weird, at least I know, has been discussed and I think people have watched it. But like you have said previously, many times it's hard for a actor to get in for a movie in these categories, but I think maybe that's the exception because it's a comedy and it's like an easy kind of check off. I just think it's like an easy check to be like, oh, that was fun.
Which is like hilarious because I think people would argue that like the serious stuff is what they would check off. Like Ben Foster in The Survivor.
I kind of think no, if you think about it though, it's like are people like, I guess I would say like I'm not sure a lot of people watch The Survivor, right? Like even though it was on
no,
HBO,
and that's why I never predicted him.
But I think like a lot of people watch Weird because it's been like it was like a movie that was heavily screened and promoted throughout the last like 9 months, basically. So I'm like, I kind of think people enjoyed it too.
Like it was promoted, but it's like, and it did get, you know, a bunch of nominations over the winter and some wins. And he won Critics' Choice.
We know that matters
too. But yeah, huge overlap with the voting bodies there. So, but yeah, I don't know if like, again, it's like, you know, even if you like it, I don't know if that's like something that inspires passion or even
really?
if like, you remember it.
You don't think, I don't know, I disagree. I think people were very passionate about like Daniel Radcliffe doing like wacky shit as Weird Al. I don't know.
I think it was fun, and yes, like people liked it, and like no one hated it, but I just don't know if like that's like top of mind, basically.
Yeah, I don't know, honestly. So you may be right. I just don't get the sense.
Like he'll probably get in just because this field is so open, but
yeah.
I don't have him, so.
I mean, that's why I was like, I'm trying to think like if you always say like passion. I was toying with like, I don't think this is true either, but I was like, what about like Sam Claflin for Daisy Jones if people actually really liked it? I don't know though. Like,
I think the passion for the performances in that show are Riley and Camilla Maroney.
I agree, but I was just like, I don't know. I'm like, it's like such a weak category. There's just like not a lot of like, I don't know. I guess then Michael Shannon could get in instead of Carell. Michael Shannon's he's 5th in our odds.
On the basis of passion?
I don't know.
Do you just think because he's like Michael Shannon?
What do you think has more passion? George and Tammy, The Patient, or White House Flowers?
You mean the show?
Yeah. Of those three, like what is the show that like most people have watched? Probably White House Plumbers, right? Even though it's new, it's on HBO Max.
Well, passion and viewership are different things. So what are you asking?
Well, I don't know if they are though, because I would say like if you're passionate about it, you'll actually have seen it.
Yeah, but like a show could have a lot of viewers, but you could hate the show.
Right, that's true. But do you think The Patient has a lot of viewers / a lot of people?
I don't think it has a lot of viewers, but I think it was watched, like, you know, Steve got the SAG nomination. So that's a data point.
It is.
And like they do like him, you know, he got into for the morning show. Remember?
How could I forget?
He never won an Emmy, but like they love nominating him.
I mean, I have him in. I'm just saying, like, I just was like, oh, okay, that's. I don't know. I think
the Patient is also short. It came out in the fall, 30-minute episodes. Mm-hmm. I think like multiple episodes are just 22 minutes. The pilot is like 22 minutes. So it's a quick watch if you're looking for that too. And I think, you know, it's hard to say with White House Plumbers because it just premiered. It's in the middle of airing. So we don't know yet until it's done how people feel about it overall. But George and Tammy, I think that's an old skewing show, and the Emmys are younger skewing.
Yes, I think that's true. Joyce, I have another email here about the limited series race from our
You're just mixing.
I'm mixing questions. And we're mixing formats here. Faisal, who is a previous emailer. I might have said their name wrong, which I apologize for. Last time they phonetically spelled it in the email to help me out. And I'm assuming this time they didn't because they probably were like,
they expected you to remember
Chris
it.
Is not an idiot
no memory.
And would remember it. And they were wrong. They bet wrong. 2 questions here about the limited series race. We talked about Beef here briefly. I think this is going to be a quick answer for us. Does Beef have enough steam to actually win anything, or has the passion for the show died out? Maybe the looming David Cho controversy affected it.
I don't think it affected it at all.
I don't think it affected either, and I think it could win multiple awards, probably, right? Like,
yes.
And number 2, would a potential Jessica Chastain Tony win against Jodie Comer in June propel her to the Emmy win, since that would make her only a Grammy away from an EGOT? Or do voters not care about that unless it's one award left to EGOT, like Viola Davis this year with the Grammys?
I don't think they care. I also don't think she's going to win the Tony. It's probably going to be Jodie.
So that's moot then, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so
there you go.
I don't know, what do you think? Do you think it matters?
I also don't think it matters. I don't know if I think Jodie would win too, but I was not sure if like which show is stronger. I feel like Jessica
Adult House got more nomination.
Yes, and
but I think the performance is Jodie's, the literal one woman show.
No, I know.
So yeah.
That's it. I could see Jessica winning at the Tonys. I don't think it's like a slam dunk for Jodie.
No, Jessica will campaign for it.
Yes.
She loves to campaign.
And I don't think, even if she won though, I don't think it matters for Emmys. It doesn't think, not at all. 0. But nice to think it would. Anything else on limited series here, Joyce? We could go do the supporting categories. Did you make any changes?
Supporting categories, just pure chaos.
Mine is just a train wreck. For supporting actors, I think I have a lot of the same ones, but I have Niecy Nash-Betts and Claire Danes, Ashley Park and Maria Bello for Beef, Jennifer Ely for Dead Ringers, and Lily Rabe for Love and Death.
I have Claire, Niecy, Michael Learned for Monster, Maria Bello, and Ashley Park. And then I just put back Merritt Weaver for Tiny Beautiful Things.
Sure. Anything you say here, I would say sure.
I don't know. Like I've gone from, in the span of a week, I've gone from Lily Rabe, and then I dropped her to put in Michael Learned. And then I just dropped Lena Headey to put back in Merritt Weaver.
I too dropped Lena Headey and Judy Greer. Olivia Colman's still very high in the odds. I think
just because no one updates at all.
No one updates, and she's Olivia Colman. Sherry Jones at 5 Days of Memorial is very good, but she's 5th in the odds, but I'm not sure I see it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like,
I dropped Lena because her best episode is the 4th episode. She's not in all the episodes. She's not in the finale. If you know what happens to her character IRL, then you know why. But yeah, I don't know if people will like make it there to the 4th episode. So yeah, I just kept the dudes basically from White House Plumbers. And then I don't know, I put back Merritt Weaver. I'm like, she's a 2-time winner. But she's also someone who I think she also has her best material on Tiny Beautiful Things towards the end, but she does have stuff throughout the whole show.
Great. And I love her on the show, but I think the show is kind of like,
it's tiny. It lives up to its title.
Yeah. You mentioned Camilla Maroney before. No, for her?
I do not have her, no.
I mean, if Daisy Jones is like a much bigger hit with the Academy than we expect, I think she would get in, because I think she's got like really great stuff, especially in the finale. But yeah, I don't have her in either at the moment.
Yeah, and I put in Michael Lerner because I'm like, sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. We talked about that in the column. I was like jealous that you put her in, because like people watch the show. I mean, like, it's like people watch the show, so it's like that's why I have like Ashley Park in, even though she's like not in as much. She's great, and I know people watched it, so like, yeah, they'll put her in. Same with like Bella.
Yeah, I mean, they could just nominate them for the 9th episode alone.
Right. I mean, that's what they're doing with Claire Danes, basically.
The only locks here, if you could even call them locks, are Claire and Niecy.
Yeah.
And then I don't know like who I you know, I did think about Jennifer Coolidge for The Watcher because that was also watched.
And she's Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah.
And because they canceled SNL, she can't have a second nomination this year. So maybe they'll give her one there. Get her the Sydney Sweeney Award for double supporting nominations.
Yeah. Well, you put in Jennifer Healy, I mean.
I did, because I think that she's incredibly good on Dead Ringers, and also like the Rachel Weisz Halo will carry over.
I agree with the first part. I just don't know if that like that show was a tough sit.
I'm just like, I'm gonna bet on it until I'll be wrong, but I just think it's like those are like pretty standout performances. And if you like Rachel Weisz, then like you're gonna put her in, then you might also put in Jennifer. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like if Tiny People Things were bigger, I would probably also consider Sarah Pigeon, who plays the younger version of Catherine Hahn's character. Although I guess it would be weird if I just predicted her and not Catherine.
Right.
But I'm not doing that. So.
And then for supporting actor, just to complete this cycle, I have Paul Terhauser, Richard Jenkins, Jesse Plemons, Ray Liotta, who I flip-flopped on a million times, got him back in. Young Mazzino, who I spoke to this week, Joyce. Lovely guy.
Well, you got to keep in. Now remember when you dropped him?
And Jake McDorman, who I also interviewed. So you know I got to put him in for Mrs. Davis. Screw it. Let's go. That's what I got.
I have PWH, Richard Young, Domhnall Gleeson. I have Rodney Burford for Monster. And Jesse Plemons.
I mean, love it. Why not? Again, Monster, we know it's like.
And that's like, that was their best episode, Silenced.
I also thought like maybe Joseph Lee could get.
I thought about him too, but I'm like, who should I drop? I guess like Jesse would probably be the easiest. I don't know.
And we mentioned Liev Schreiber before. I thought I would like to put him in, but I don't know if I can.
Yeah, I think if I were to predict Mrs. Davis anywhere, I would just do Betty. I don't think I would do Jake, unfortunately, even though I love them on it.
I can't imagine it'll happen, but like I said,
you're just hope dicting him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's limited series choice. The other big news this week was a lot of confirmation of stuff we've expected and talked about a million times, which was
nothing to see here.
Brian Cox is staying in the lead acting race for Succession. It's what he deserves, I would argue.
A lot of people pressed about it, which I love. Just hilarity to me.
Clearly a lead on the show. I will not take questions otherwise. Even if he died, Logan is still the most important character on the entire show. So
I don't care where he goes, but I feel like no matter where he submitted, people would have been angry. Like obviously they're angry about lead already. And if he had submitted in guest, for which currently he qualifies at 4 episodes, he could be in more, but currently he qualifies, people would be mad because they would be upset he would be taking the win away from The Last of Us guys. And then I think a supporting actor would be the one people would be most amenable to, but then if he got in and Alan Ruck doesn't get in, people would be upset. It's like, oh, he went supporting and like took a spot away from Alan Ruck, who's never been nominated before, it's like stuff like that. But I think I'm totally unbothered by him being in lead. And I don't think like I think the cries of him committing category fraud is misguided, because in awards parlance, that term was coined because you had performers with ample screen time slumming it and supporting to gain an advantage over actual supporting performers. And that's why our perception of what an actual supporting performer is skewed, like especially at the Oscars. Because you have these people, these like lead or co-leads going and supporting, and they have greater screen time than like an actual supporting performer who would have like 8 minutes of screen time or 10 minutes of screen time. But like we've been so warped into thinking like, oh no, you need 30 minutes of screen time to be a supporting performer. But Yeah, like I think like the cleanest route would have been him and Kieran to swap because Kieran's going lead, right? But I'm totally fine with him staying in lead.
So a lot of stuff about will he get in? A lot of stuff about this means Pedro Pascal would win because the three guys are going to cancel each other out.
Or Bob Odenkirk.
Or Bob Odenkirk would win, but I don't believe that he will win. Or I don't know. According to our odds, which again, like maybe need to be refreshed. If you're watching this and you haven't updated, go ahead and update. It'll make everybody happy. But Jeremy Strong's in first, Odenkirk in second, Pedro Pascal in third, Kieran in fourth, Brian Cox in fifth. I have Kieran still in first. Nothing has disabused me from this notion. He is so good on this season. Everything he's done is great.
Same. And he is teed up to have even more stuff with the election this coming episode. And then he's going to deliver the eulogy at the funeral. And he's just going to spiral again. So
I would say actually my prediction was that he won't, because like they're giving each of them a win. And I feel like he's been on such a loss the whole season that he'll clearly kill the funeral thing. And he's the most like got the most high emotional EQ. So I feel like he will like kind of crush that.
I think it will be a very emotional speech, but I don't mean he's going to flop on there, but it's just going to be another emotional scene for him. And like if he gives like a lengthy speech eulogy, like it's going to be it'll be like the equivalent of Jeremy's Living Plus presentation,
right?
So like that.
I mean, I could easily see Pedro Pascal winning, because like he's definitely the most like he's like the hot like viral guy, right? Like people love Pedro Pascal. So if he won for Last of Us, which I think will have a lot of nominations across the board, like would not be shocked. But I'm still going Kieran. And then I have Jeremy and Brian, 1, 2, 3. I have all three of them like top 3.
I do too. And I understand why people are like, will he even get in? But I'm just like, who would he miss to?
So I have
even if you think he would come in 6, which fine, sure. Like the other fringe contenders, like you have, his 2 fail sons. You have Bob and Pedro, and then Brian, 6, yellow light. Like then there's like Jeff Bridges.
So Jeff Bridges is 6 in the odds.
Sure, SAG nomination, icon.
Yeah.
But also like the old man,
like
not the strongest show. Like who else is there?
Paddy Considine.
Yeah, again, he's another one who's like, is he really elite though? But then like, is there even passion for House of the Dragon, or any of its actors? Probably not. I think like Emma, Darcy, and Olivia Cook were the better performers of the season. Diego Luna, like the 4th best performance on that show after Fiona Shaw, Andy Serkis, and Stellan Skarsgård. And then there's Matthew Rhys, former nominee for Perry Mason, would be a filler again.
I kind of thought of putting him in over Jeff Bridges, to be perfectly honest.
I still have him in. I'm not dropping my guy Matthew.
Okay. So I'm going to keep Jeff Bridges, and you also have Harrison Ford for 1923, Kevin Costner for Yellowstone. Joyce, did anything happen with Yellowstone? Do we?
God, what a week for him last week.
So I'm not sure he's going to get in. Yeah, like this is not there's not a lot of people who would knock off Brian Cox.
Yeah, like he's not going to win.
No.
But I'm just like, if you're talking about nomination, like who would get in over him?
And not that, Time Machine and all, and like we've talked about this. This is why I was like so disappointed that he did not win last year for season 3, which was like a key, like prime Logan season, clearly like the greatest Logan season. He fucking wins, and at the greatest finale for him, everything was teed up for him to win and did not win. And I was like, Lee Jung-jae was great on Squid Game, but like that was the year to honor Brian Cox for Succession, and that they didn't do it. It just sucks because he's not going to win an Emmy for the show.
And basically Brian confirming him submitting in lead just guarantees that one of him and Kieran will go Emmy-less for the show.
Yes. But I got to say, even if Brian wasn't in lead, and while I have him in first and you have him in first, I don't believe really in my heart that Kieran will win, because I just don't think people take Roman seriously based on the amount of writing we see about the character and like reporting of the show. I just think people don't get the like the people who make the show certainly understand it. Like if you read like Lorene Scafaria's interview or like any people who've been on the show, they're like just over the moon about Kieran and the performance and like how incredible it is and the tightrope that he's walking. And when you read the press about it, it's like he's doing wacky quips. He's the quip guy. And it's like there's a lot more to it than that, but I think because that's the impression.
I don't think that's all the press. I think there's like certain press about it and like certain like tweets about it too. But I think this season is the game changing season in people's perception of him.
I hope so because like
I think it is, and he's just gotten a lot of more material and with like gravitas. You know, you have Sarah Paulson storying that, you know, that he gave the performance of the year in Kill List. You know, who's she gonna vote for? Because her BFF Pedro's in there.
I mean, probably Pedro. Honestly, she loves Pedro Pascal.
But yeah, I think like it'll just be like between him and Jeremy. Like if we're talking about if the season were to end right now and we're voting for the Emmys right now, or not we, but like they were voting for the Emmys right now, I think it would be between the two of them. I think Brian would just be the Nicholas Braun to their Kieran and Matthew.
Yeah.
So.
And then just drama supporting actress. So we talked last week, Sarah Snook is now a lead actress, right to the top of my predictions and yours, I'm sure. Everything else here was confirmed that like same old shit. Jennifer Coolidge is staying supporting, Ray Seehorn staying supporting. All the White Lotus ladies are supporting, no kidding. And that's it. And so Jennifer Coolidge, congratulations on your Emmy, basically.
Yeah, nothing changed.
We do have another email, Joyce, about this category that I could read. Let me find it. This is a good one. It's from Charlie, who emailed us at slugfest@goldderby.com. First time emailer here. Love the show. I've been tuning in every week on my long commute to work. So good thing these episodes are over an hour usually. I'm so glad you both have this. I already changed this, so I feel bad. I already feel bad, Charlie. But I'm so glad you, and I changed it because of this email. I'm so glad you both have Sabrina Impacatore in supporting actress now since Sarah Snook is moving to lead. I've been a Sabrina stan since finishing White Lotus season 2. My question is in 2 parts. A couple of shows back, Chris mentioned he would love to see Haley Lou Richardson also get nominated. So I was surprised to see no more love for her last week when you talked about this. Even Simona Tabasco and Beatrice Greno got shout outs. Do you think Sabrina is the most likely 4th White Lotus actress to get nominated? Personally, I would love to see it. So when I read that, I was like, yeah, he's right. And I put Haley Lou Richardson. So I have her in now.
Just because he shamed you for not predicting
shaming or reminding
which you always do. You just put in your faves.
Shaming or reminding me would be it. But I put Haley Lou Richardson in. And actually the reason I did was only because I was like, all her stuff is like with, or most of her stuff is with Jennifer Coolidge. And I just feel like similarly to like how Natasha got in last year or for the first season White Lotus, that kind of Haley Lou could get in as well.
Yeah. I kept Sabrina.
Makes sense. She's obviously like really good too. The other question here from Charlie. So Charlie, I apologize for bailing on Sabrina. Here he writes, if Jennifer Coolidge wasn't the clear frontrunner for Best Supporting Actress, who would your personal pick be out of the other White Lotus actresses? This is an exercise we did last year because neither one of us were like super hot on her in the show last year. I would argue the performance.
No, I was for my girl Alexandra Daddario. So
right, and I was more for Sydney Sweeney.
Well, you're gonna who are you gonna do? Megan, your girl Megan Fahey.
Obviously, Megan Fahey, bold type forever. And also, she's great. I mean, I would argue she's great. I think Jennifer was way better on this season than the first season, and I think
I agree.
She should win for this season, frankly. But I mean, like Megan Fahey, I would say is like
she can give her Emmy from last year to Caitlin Dever. So
yes.
I like Megan too. I don't know. I don't feel as passionate about any of the performances this season as I did last season about Jake, Lacey, and Alexandra.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I do think Jennifer was better this season, I guess I would do Megan too. I was like the guys, I don't know. I don't really care about any of them.
The guys, I only have Tom Hollander in, and I'm not even sure he would get in. I don't have any of the other guys in.
I think I still have F. Murray and Imperioli.
So if you watch the show, at least from my perspective, the most compelling guys on the show are Theo James, Will Sharp, and Colin Woodall, right? That's his name. So I would love any of those three to get in, but no one is predicting them to get in. Instead, going for the obviously like F. Murray Abraham and Michael Imperioli types. But I don't think they were that compelling compared to like those other guys.
I did think about dropping both of them for the other White Lotus guys, but then I was like, I don't know which ones to go with too, because I also consider Tom Hollander.
I have Hollander in just because I love him in it. He's so good.
Yeah, but yeah, so I have 4. So okay, get ready. So I have 4 White Lotus supporting actresses.
Same.
I have 4 Succession supporting actors.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I have 3 Succession lead actors.
Yes.
And now, because Betty defected to Limited, I once again have 3 Yellowjackets lead actresses.
So
I did not put back in Tawny. I put in Sophie Nélisse.
Me too, because she's so good on the last episode. It was incredible. And actually, we have another question there, Joyce, about
Sophie.
Sophie, let me find it here. Great segue. We didn't. It's like almost like we should plan this, but it's so much better with no prep or anything. It just is great off the dome. This is Sarah A, who emailed us last week about The Crown and asked me to email her back to let her know that
you have to email her back about this too now.
I didn't email her back, and she obviously heard it because she said, "Hey, thanks for responding to my question last episode.
Wow.
Really enjoyed hearing your insights and analysis on the nominations. I was wondering if Sarah Snook wasn't in lead. Do you guys think Melanie Linsky would have been the clear winner this year for lead? Maybe I'm biased because I love Yellowjackets, but a part of me is delusional and hoping for the icon, legend, Mother Melanie to win, mother in all caps. Also thoughts on Sophie Nélisse submitting for lead as well. I initially thought her chances were low. I agree, but after the incredible performance she gave in last week's episode 6, I think she might have a slight chance. Again, maybe I'm a delusional of my thinking and thinking with my heart instead of my head. Sincerely, Sarah. I totally agree with that, and I was like not convinced she was going to make like enough inroads, but the episode was so good and she's so good on it that I was like, yes, put her in. So I have her in as well.
Yeah, one of my friends watched because they sent the first 6 screeners last month or whenever, and she watched 6 before I did, and she's like, Sophie's amazing in this episode, and she doesn't care about like Emmys and stuff at all. I was like, oh, like, but she knows like what an Emmy tape is. I was like, oh, do you think that would be her Emmy tape? And she was like, yes, for sure. And then like 2 weeks later, it was announced that she was going lead. So yeah, so I watched, I was like, yeah, great performance. Obviously it would be her tape, assuming she doesn't get any better material in the remaining episodes, but I think this is like clearly her tape. And I was like, I still don't know if she would actually get in, but I also don't have anyone else really to put in here. I thought about Elizabeth Moss.
So I have Elizabeth Moss.
Like
you have Juliette Lewis still too?
Yes.
I just, again, like having seen only up through the 6 that they've shown, and I know they send screeners, I just haven't watched them. Nothing this season has led me to believe that she should be getting in, though at the same time, like maybe there's more to come, which I could see.
I haven't watched the upcoming screeners yet either, but I don't know who else to put in there.
So I mean, like, I think if I was gonna if you were gonna have 3 Yellowjackets, I mean, based on like,
would you put Tawny?
I would put Tawny over Juliette because I think the material has been better thus far.
But I think like I think all the past storylines are better than the present storylines.
I guess I would say like one of the frustrating things I've had with this season, which I've enjoyed largely, is that like the group was so separate for so. I just wish they would have.
They're finally together.
It took them 6 episodes to get them all in the same place, and I was just like, man, that should have been like 4 episodes.
You know what? It was kind of like Eternals. It was just like a whole let's get the gang together, spread out for hours.
I always just think when I think of those kind of storylines, I think of like Lost, season 2 when they at the end of season 1 everybody separated off, and it took them many years to get back together with like the people that you liked, and it was so satisfying when they eventually got together. And I love Lost, even like the season people don't like, but I'm like, this felt like, I don't know, I just was like, get together sooner. Like, how long is
Yeah, like I find all the past stuff way more compelling, and I think the younger cast too, but I don't know how much they're paying attention to the younger actors, so that's my only hesitation with her. And also the fact that they're running 4 leads.
I think you would have to. I could like. I don't feel like. I don't know. Like I said, I would not have Juliet in, but I can see her getting in, I guess. But I would put her 4th out of the 4 leads.
I think in terms of like, if you're a fan and you're watching the show, I think generally, like I mean, I would say like even most people would probably just have Sophie in first, right, as like the most deserving so far. I think Melanie, had a great scene in the 3rd episode, but I also don't think, like adult Shauna has had a lot of material. It's just like all the present stuff.
I agree, but I will say like Melanie reliably every episode makes me like legitimately.
Yeah, like they're all great. Like they're
like really good.
They all deliver. I think it's just not...
I mean, Sophie definitely has had like the most emotional stuff and like the heaviest stuff. And she should get in. I agree. And I hope she does. I actually think she will. I almost knocked Imelda Staunton out completely. I have got her down in 6 now. I'm like looking for a reason to like knock her out.
It's just like, if you're gonna drop someone, who you're gonna replace them with.
So I'm more of, I would be hotter on Emma Darcy than you, because I think they at least are on a show that people watched and liked more so than The Crown. I don't know, but I don't want to do that. I would actually put Terry Russell in for Imelda Staunton, and that was what I was thinking I might do, but I'm not going to do it yet. People really
I would love to see Carrie.
People like that show, and they watched it.
They do, but it's just, that's another one where I think it's still being watched, but I think the conversation around it has also kind of died down too. It's like cooled off a little bit.
A little. I guess the other thing is, like we talked about with The Crown, it's like she's not, the queen in this season is not as much of a main character, maybe even as Princess Diana. You could flip her and Elizabeth Debicki, basically.
We've talked about this.
And like we've talked about this the episode, but I'm like, Imelda Staunton really could be supporting, and like I don't know, like I just was like, Kerry Russell I think could be a more compelling fit there, but I don't know. It's a tough category. And then for Sarah, I have Sarah winning now again, especially after last week's episode of Succession, which was just a haymaker.
She just has an Emmy tape every week.
Every single week she's like doing an Emmy tape. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, without her, to answer Sarah A's question, I had Melanie before Sarah moved here.
I had Bella Ramsey.
I don't know if she would have won.
I don't think she would have. I think I had Bella Ramsey because I think, and I used to have her in 2nd still, because I think people like, I think The Last of Us is going to be like a big show for the Emmys, and like kind of people really loved it, and they are great on it. So
yeah, I think if Sarah weren't here, I think it's just kind of like a wait and see, like how each show does with noms, and then like who has the momentum going into September. But I did have Melanie in first as like a default, basically. So, but yeah, now we have Sarah in here. No Jennifer Coolidge or Ray Seehorn.
No.
I'm not surprised that both of them stayed in supporting. I think that the Jennifer talk was really just kind of awards nerds like taking survey of the lead field and being like, oh, it's wide open. She can move up.
It definitely felt like more speculative than like reality.
Yeah, and then I do think I think the Ray one was real, but I think that was a really tough call for them because she waited so long just to get the first nomination in supporting, which has more slots. And lead is open, but it's like, do you want to roll the dice and see if they'll vote for you in that category when you had such a hard time getting just the one nomination supporting?
I kind of feel like they made the right call,
because
I don't necessarily think she would win in either category.
I don't think she would win in either.
So get the nomination.
We'll be able to call her a 2-time Emmy nominee for drama supporting actress. So she's already a 2-time nominee, and she got her short form nomination last year too.
We've gone through so many emails, so we can end up wrapping up here. But I got.
Are there even any left, since you read like 5 of them already?
You can email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. Let us know about the format. This one is from Larry, which is a pseudonym for obvious reasons, Joyce. I just want to read this. Hey guys, voting member of the striking WGA here, thoroughly enjoying the podcast. I'm a new listener. Succession has my vote if the WGA Awards moves forward this year. It is by far the best written drama on TV. Nothing I've seen comes close. Chris and Joyce, keep up the great work. Larry Martin, pseudonym for obvious reasons. Larry, thank you for being a listener. I hope maybe you're listening while on the picket line, which would be pretty cool. I don't know.
Is that it? Is that just gassing us up? No question.
It was just about Succession being great.
I love that Larry's already planning on voting and is speculating that if the awards still happen.
I get the sense it's going to be pretty long, Joyce.
It's going to be long.
It's going to be months, maybe September.
The last one was 100 days. So, but you know what? They could they could still have the awards. It's just a matter of the ceremony. I mean, because the last strike, the WGA signed a waiver for the SAG Awards to move forward. They did not give a waiver to the Globes, so that's why they had their press conference.
But what about like WGA Awards themselves? Would they give those out if they were striking?
If for the ceremony, yeah, if they wanted to, it's their writers. But if they don't, they could still have the awards.
Yeah, I agree. Though Succession is the best. What would you, if you had to pick? What would you pick this season of what we've seen so far for best written episode?
Probably Connor's wedding.
I would probably pick Living Plus or what was the title of the one with in Norway?
Kill List.
I thought Kill List was like really well tightly constructed.
Yeah. Jesse wrote the last 3.
There was a viral video going around that somebody on the premiere asked Jesse Armstrong, and I've seen this for months.
Yes, that's been viral for like 2 months.
And it's continuing to go viral. And it was
he says 8 is the big one that people will be most shocked by.
What would people be most shocked by? And he said episode 8. So I mean, like, there's a brief shot in the preview of Kendall putting hands on Roman that I was like a little disturbed by, because Kendall's obviously always stood up for Roman against physical abuse. So I'm really curious to see how that kind of comes to fruition. Haven't seen it, but I'm a little nervous for our guys here. I don't know what's going to happen.
I'm not nervous. Yeah.
That's it. Those are the emails I guess we got this week. Let me see any other ones that I want to read.
You just ruined your whole process since you read so many of them.
No, I didn't. I like doing it that way.
Yeah, but now you can't keep track of them.
No, I kept track of them. I think that was all of them. If we didn't read your email us again. Joyce, anything else before we head off?
What else is there this week? Oh, The Great premieres this week. Is back. Sorry to The Great. Afterthought, but I did not watch the full season. I watched some of it. I put Elle Fanning in though.
Interesting.
Yes, I put her back in. So
I've had a tough time filling out that category, as we might expect, or we talked about a little. So I could see going back to her.
Yeah, I already had Nicholas Holton anyway. So, but I did not put it into series, even though I'm not sure about my comedy series lineup.
I'll put Elle back in because I'd actually moved off Natasha Lyonne altogether, because I just was like, no. And I'll put Elle in instead of her. But the others I have are Rachel Brosnahan, Quinta Brunson, Christina Applegate, Jenna Ortega, and Selena Gomez, plus Elle Fanning.
Oh yeah, you can't drop Selena, otherwise her
the Selenators will not be happy.
Your neck.
A couple of things I moved on comedy series before we go. I'm this close to putting The Bear in first over Ted Lasso.
I thought about that too today, especially after watching today's Ted Lasso, which is one of their better episodes this season, also one of their shorter ones. But again, just a lot of plot stuff not working. So, but I'm not gonna make the move yet. I still have it in first.
Same, but I moved The Bear up to second, I think, ahead of Abbott, because I just feel
Oh,
like
I
it's a
always had
better
the Bear
show.
in second. So,
And I'm like
just
this
based on
close
the
to doing it.
ones.
And then I put Jeremy Allen White in first for comedy actor, which is not like a crazy thing, but I moved him
I
ahead.
already had him in first, so nothing.
Just Jason's not in this season of Ted Lasso that much.
I don't even think it's that. I think it's just kind of. I think though, if Jason wins, it'll just be kind of like lazy name check again. But I think the Bear just has more passion behind it. And this week they finally announced the premiere date, which was expected to be June 22nd, because last year premiered June 23rd. So
I rewatched the whole season this week and I was like, holy shit, that show is the best. Like, actually, I've underrated in my mind. It's so good. I just like way into it.
I can't wait for season 2 to premiere, and then during voting, we'll have the whole It's a Drama discourse again, and during nominations when it gets 1 billion comedy nominations.
I mean, I gotta say, like, again, it's a drama and like there are obviously heavy dramatic elements, but it's like it's still kind of funny. There's funny parts to it.
There are
straight up drama.
Like, I have laughed during some parts in it. It's not a LOL. Like, I do think it is a drama, but I think humor is also subjective.
I think a lot of the Richie stuff I find funny. He's a pretty good character.
Yeah, I think a lot of its situations are drama based, and
Yes.
then it doesn't really, it's not like a satire like Succession or something, and it doesn't have like surreal comedy like Barry.
It's certainly Barry is funnier and Succession is way funnier.
I was just rewatching this coming episodes of Barry again, because I'm just like just pausing to laugh again as I watched it for like the third time. I do not pause to laugh for the Bear. I just kind of like chuckle.
But man, it's so good. I just was like way into watching it again. I'm just like, I do think it could. I actually think it could beat Ted. I guess we'll see though.
Well, season 2 will be airing during the last 4 days of nomination voting.
Right.
So it'll be around in the summer. And it'll try to pull a Ted, since that's what Ted did at season 2 airing.
Right.
During season 1 nominations. So, one thing we didn't mention, someone else or something else that's also staying put, Schmigadoon, since we mentioned this last week, its appeal was denied to move to Variety Scripted.
Yes.
So it's staying in comedy where it belongs, because it's a scripted comedy narrative series.
Yes. No changes there. I didn't put it in.
I didn't put it in, although I do think the season was better than the first season. Yeah, I can see it winning song again, music and lyrics. I think, like, obviously the big push is Jane Krakowski. I don't have her in. But I wouldn't be shocked if she made it in, but I don't know.
I thought about having her in, but I don't have her in either. I have the top 8 in the odds, which are it's just chalk.
I did think about dropping Juno Tempo, but I did not do it.
I thought of that too, and we talked about this, but then I think her last 2 episodes have been like good enough that they've actually
given. Did you watch
her
today's? Because she's not really in today's.
She's not in it as much, but she has a couple of scenes, and I was like, last week's obviously she was such a bigger factor. It just felt like enough to me. Like we were just waiting for anything to have happen to that character.
Yeah, I think like there are still like issues with her storyline. It's like so disjointed from Maine. I did drop Nick Mohammed.
Me too, and I put in Phil Dunster, actually.
I thought about him, but I didn't. I put in Emma Moss-Bachrach. So
I had Emma Moss-Bachrach in. So I dropped Tony Shalhoub, actually. I'm like, he's not in the final season that much, and I don't think it's like a performance. I understand he's been like nominated a million times, but like, I don't know. I'm just like, I think the show is going to do really well, Mrs. Maisel, and I actually think Rachel Brosnahan could win for actress, but I don't think if you're watching that final season, you're like gonna put him in. And I actually could make a better case for like Michael Zegan, but I didn't put him in. I put Phil Dunster in because I think he's like we talked about when we were talking about him as like a fringe contender. He's actually had a lot to do, and I think is like the breakout like character of the season.
Breakout.
Yeah, I did it in quotes. Emma's Backrack, I have in all the way. I think he's great.
Yeah, so I currently just have one Ted guy, just with Brett Goldstein. Yeah, Phil, I guess it kind of depends for me how the season wraps up. I think like individually himself, like he is strong enough and there's enough like excitement for him and Jamie's arc this season. Like he's the only one with like a really decent arc this season and over the course of the series too. So I think like in a vacuum, like he should get in, but I think it also kind of depends on how the season wraps up in the next 3 episodes too.
Yeah.
So
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just sticking with my hope diction of Stephen Root because I still have him at 100-1.
Let's do it. Love it. Joyce, we could end it there. And I guess we'll see what happens on Succession this week. The most shocking episode, according to Jesse Armstrong. We'll talk about it, I guess, next week.
I feel like it probably won't be that shocking.
I can't imagine nothing. I don't know what it would be that would be shocking. That's
I just like it's not that type of show, really. I think like it'll be something like surprising. Like maybe someone will flick someone else's ear. Like that to me is like the shocking stuff.
I yelped at that. That was like literally yelped at that. All right, Joyce. We'll have fun, and we'll see you next time.